Story 1. I was an inexperienced boy and thought I deserved more. Then I grew up and understood that I lost more than I deserved. Story 2. Personally, I could not make up my mind about what I wanted to do. I was very indecisive. She put a lot of love into that relationship, but I had trouble expressing myself and speaking my mind. She even told me I should argue back whenever she got upset. We both made mistakes, but I felt my lack of stepping up and being open caused problems. She was very into me at the start, but I did not meet her expectations as time went on. The only thing that hurt more than the relationship ending was knowing I failed someone who at one point genuinely cared about me more than family. Now, I take things day by day, trying to do better. Story 3. Self-deprecation, porn addiction, and avoidant attachment style affected her deeply. Guess how I learned? Too long, didn't read, go to therapy. Just do it. Story 4. Thankfully, it hasn't just been one woman. I lost the first woman who genuinely cared for me because I was a dumb 20-year-old. I thought she was moving too fast when she said, "I love you," 6 months after we started dating. A few weeks later, I said I needed space to think, but I was really just scared of commitment. Every year, she sent me a gift for Christmas and my birthday, wished me a Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and Happy Thanksgiving. She came to visit me every weekend when I got into a bad accident and was hospitalized for 2 months. She respected the boundary because she never brought up our relationship during those interactions. Ever. 3 years later, on the anniversary of our break, she sent me a message asking if we could meet up. We went to dinner and had a good time catching up with good vibes. At the end, I wanted to pay, but she had pulled a fast one on me and paid when she went to the bathroom. We left the restaurant and walked along Lakeshore for a minute before she brought up our breakup for the first time and asked if I was ready to revisit our relationship. She told me there was no pressure if I needed more time, but she wasn't sure how much longer she could wait. I said no, I didn't think I was ready for a relationship. She asked if she should keep waiting. I said no. I walked her back to her car. She gave me a hug and said she loves me. I asked, "Still?" Her eyes were a little teary, but she smiled and said, "Yeah, you're my first love and I hoped you'd be the last." I remember how conflicted I felt, standing there watching her drive away. I still had feelings for her, but I was 23, and I thought there was no way I could just settle down with the first girlfriend I ever had. I thought I had to experience more options out there before settling down. Huge mistake. Thankfully, my mindset and perspective have grown. I'm still dumb, but I'm not an ass anymore. It took 4 years, a bottle of Ciroc, 1 night in jail over a false accusation, and moving away from the troubled streets of Toronto before I met someone who cared for me as genuinely as she did. My girl and I went to her wedding last summer. Her sister is my nephew's godmother, so our families have been close. We're good friends now. Our partners know of our history, but enough time has passed for it to be nothing but a fond memory. No regrets between us at this stage of our lives, but it's one of those what-ifs, you know? I spent years in pain because I was too proud to see the value and love that was around me. All those experiences shaped me, and I appreciate the lessons learned along the way. If I have sons someday, I don't know how, but I will teach them about the value of personal reflection, vulnerability, being in tune with one's emotions, and being open to give and receive genuine love. If I have daughters, they will learn the same, but I will also teach them not to waste years of their beautiful lives waiting on someone with their heads stuck in the sand. Story 5. I became complacent and took her for granted. I did not put in the effort I should have to maintain the relationship. Due to my lack of action, she lost her feelings, and that was the end. Story 6. I honestly believe in my 3 long-term relationships that each one of them truly loved me. We were together for 4 years starting at age 16. We were both very young, and she wanted to sow her wild oats, or whatever the term is for ending a relationship on the phone minutes before an intimate encounter in a public restroom. I understand, and I'm thankful that she allowed both of us to live and experience things. We still keep in touch from time to time in our 30s. She was genuinely crazy about me, but she was also passionate about everything. She was a blast, and I have some absolutely wild stories with her. She would have taken a bullet for me in a heartbeat. But I was looking for stability, and she was not it. The stable one. Together for 8 years, and we just grew apart. She left me because she wanted to experience more in life, which I fully understood. This one, by far, hurt the least. It just felt like the natural course of things. She was a great woman. We helped each other become adults and financially independent, then moved on. All three were wonderful experiences, with some of my lowest lows and definitely my highest highs. They are all responsible for making me the person I am today, arguably more so than any other factor. Story 7. Chose school and career opportunities over her. I still regret it 25 years later. You can always make money. You'll never find that one again. Story 8. I stopped showing her that I cared and let her think I did not. The connection died due to my own avoidance. I let old patterns take over and she rightfully left. The damage caused by indifference can be the hardest to heal. Story 9. I got a happy ending because I met my wife when I was in my early 30s, but in my early 20s, I met an angel and completely messed it up. She was stunning, kind, funny, thoughtful, very intelligent, and adored me, head over heels for me for some reason. I was just too much of an asshole to appreciate it. I kept her at a distance because I did not want to commit, used her for sex when I was horny and had no other options. She accepted being friends with benefits at first, but it was obvious to both of us that she wanted more. She eventually could not take it, and we stopped sleeping together. A year later, we ended up in the same situation, with me still being too self-absorbed to appreciate her. The second time she broke things off with me, it was for good, and she eventually found someone else. It took me a while to realize how badly I had messed up, but by then it was far too late. It was 10 years before I met someone else like her, and fortunately for me and my now wife, I had matured enough to recognize a good thing when I saw it. I do not regret how things turned out. I am very happy with my life, and through the grapevine, I know she is too. Letting her get away was absolutely a mistake, and luckily for me, one I learned from. Story 10. Death. I wish I had spent more time with my mother and made her happier and prouder of me. I feel it was not enough. To me, the world is now divided into with my mother and without my mother. And the second world will never be as wonderful and beautiful as the first. Story 11. I wrote a long explanation to post. I read it and it is too sad. Suffice to say that I have never wished more for a time machine. Story 12. I stopped treating her with respect. She began to respect herself more and realized it was not worth it. I was going through difficult times. Story 13. I was young and unable to appreciate her at the time. I left her for someone I should not have. I would probably have married her, but instead, I let lust destroy my chance for true love. If I get a chance to meet a woman like that again, I will not make the same mistake twice. Story 14. We had different ideas for our respective futures. She wanted children, and I did not. We are still acquainted. She now has a lovely husband and child, and I get to go on my adventures and live my life, which would be difficult with children. Story 15. She stopped partying and doing drugs. I was too slow to follow suit. We were together for 4 years and engaged, but it was for the best. She married a woman the other year, and I am content with my current girlfriend and 6 years sober. Story 16. She loved me, but she was never sure if she wanted to be with me. That took a huge toll on our relationship as well as my self-esteem, which compounded into other issues that appeared in many different ways. Story 17. I rejected her because I was not used to being loved and cared for. It was new territory for me, and therefore I self-sabotaged. Story 18. Too drunk and stuck up my own ass. I had many mental health problems when we first met. She stayed with me. I wasted it by chasing a girl who lived in a different state. 14 years later, we crossed paths again. I didn't make the same mistake twice. Story 19. There was some strain in the relationship because of the long distance, but what really ended it was more than politics. Our country invaded its neighbor in a horrific, unjust, and brutal war that is still ongoing. I chose what I believed were our ethics. She chose what she believed was our tribe. Story 20. I have been lucky enough to find two special people in my life. One is currently my best friend, my wonderful girlfriend, and the love of my life. A few years before my girlfriend and I started dating, the other woman injured her leg in an accident and had to have it amputated. She had a heart condition, and they were unsure if she would survive. Unfortunately, her leg was in such bad condition that the only options were to do nothing and risk her dying from the infection or undergo surgery with the risk of dying from anesthesia, but possibly saving her life. She called me before the surgery. About 1 hour after we got off the phone, they gave her the anesthesia. About 45 minutes later, I received a call from her sister. She told me that a few minutes after they administered the anesthesia, she passed away. Story 21. I was self-centered and depressed. I isolated myself from everyone. She did not give up. I did not deserve her. I grew up, sorted out my problems, and reached out to apologize for everything. But she moved on. She waited long after things ended too. I hope she is happy. Story 22. I had a family bereavement and pushed her away. I have done a lot of unwise things, but that was by far the most unwise. Story 23. Listened to what she was saying rather than what she was doing and thought we were just friends. All the signs were there. I ignored some and disregarded others. I only realized how much I loved her after I lost her. More than friends, not quite lovers, now we are strangers. Story 24. We were at Buc-ee's in Luling, Texas. I went to the restroom, and when I came out, she was gone. After several trips to the truck to see if she was there, I found her 45 minutes later standing by the entrance closest to the truck. That's why you'll see me standing guard outside the restrooms. I'm afraid she'll disappear again if I'm not there to find her. She's the best thing that's ever come into my life. The shock of losing her was sobering. She's my one true solace in this world. I grew a lot that day from that experience. It's true that you don't just leave Buc-ee's. You emerge. Story 25. I was paranoid and insecure, possessive and immature. I saw signs of cheating where there were none. I am older now and happily married. Our relationship is built on the pillars of trust, commitment, and service. Story 26. Was not mature enough for long distance and putting in the effort she needed from me. I will always think highly of her. Story 27. I was not ready for love, was not happy with myself, and did not think I was good enough for her. By the time I had worked on myself, she had moved on to somebody else. Story 28. We did long distance for a year, and after that, she got a new job in Hawaii. I wanted to move with her for us, but she would not let me. It has been 3 months. Story 29. I stupidly went back to an ex who was my first love to try and make it work, knowing how it ended the first time. I don't carry regrets. This was I've made a huge mistake moment though. Narrator. It truly was a huge mistake. Also, I went with romantic caring. The other caring, I'm good. Story 30. We were not at the point of calling it a romantic love, but it was truly the closest I have ever been, and I know that she was very interested at one point too. My own mental health, where I am in life as a result, and my inability to overcome enough issues soon enough. All of it added up to me being too insecure to take enough risks to make it happen. Only too late did I realize how much she had really been interested despite these things. She has moved on. I understand, but it still hurts. Story 31. In her words, she got too attached to me and it scared her. She said, I'm happy when I'm with you, but I'm not happy when I'm alone. I told her I understand she's her own person, and if she needs time alone, that's okay. But if she gets involved with another man during that time, then she can't come back. She got involved with another man. Word on the street is she hooked up with a military man before he was deployed, thinking nobody would find out. I found out. Story 32. I thought I was with people who genuinely cared and loved me until they did not. I came to terms with being alone for the rest of my life until a year ago. As apprehensive as I was, I reluctantly started talking to her. I never expected it to go anywhere and kind of wanted to be left alone because I did not want to deal with another heartbreak. Here I am, a year later with the best person I could ever be with. Communication is amazing. We never argue. She does not criticize me for being myself. Story 33. We divorced officially a few days ago, but she ended it 2 months ago. I honestly still don't understand her reasoning. According to her, it was too good. She didn't speak up to keep the peace. But we talked about everything, her mental health issues, my insecurities. So I don't get why she had to please me. Maybe there is more to it, but she will never tell me. I suspect that I may be too boring of a partner. I read a lot about how women seek their partner to be an anchor, the one to have the plan. I am not that kind of guy. Unfortunately, there is no one who can consult you on something like that. You need to figure this out, and I am incredibly bad at this. Story 34. I needed some real growing up to do. In my defense, I virtually raised myself from age 10, so I did not have a strong role model to guide me. It has been over 20 years now, and I am still not over her. What is hard is her best friend is married to mine. If I could turn back time, I would absolutely strangle myself. Story 35. I took her for granted and now live every single day in regret. Do not take love for granted and love them the way they deserve to be loved. I was slow in realizing that and was running after money, friends, and drugs. I forgot about her and then she left me. Now, I neither have the friends nor care about the drugs. It was her that I needed, and now I realize. Story 36. Severe depression convinced me that she did not really want me and was only with me as a practical matter. She and her friends were playing on me, so I pushed her away. It has been almost 30 years, and it is still the biggest regret of my life. We are still in touch and friends, though. Story 37. I was young, inexperienced, and too serious during my undergraduate studies. She was a fun, sweet, and wonderful person, but sometimes a bit spacey. That's what I told myself. 23-year-old me was not wise in many ways. Story 38. When we got together, it was a condition that we would not have children. That lasted for 7 years. Then her best friend had a child, and suddenly she wanted one too. Then she gave me an ultimatum. Story 39. I did not know how to fix the problems we had. We have been broken up for 2 years, and I feel I will never experience genuine love like that again. Story 40. My own life issues, including family and depression, combined with wanting her to find herself after her toxic ex. If it had been one or the other, I would have handled it better with much more communication. As it is, I pushed her too far away. Story 41. She passed away from cancer in 2023. My mom is the only woman who has genuinely loved me, as I haven't been in a romantic relationship yet, though I do have doubts that there is a woman out there who would find me attractive enough to like me in a romantic way. Foolish hope? Maybe. My mom was the kindest, most thoughtful and positive person in the world. She brought so much love, support, and happiness to the many people who had the privilege of having her in their lives. The large number of people at her funeral was a lovely testament and reflection of just how many people she knew and cared for. She has remained in my thoughts every day since. I miss her immensely and regret not doing more with the time we had left. So much was left to say, see, and do forever undone. Instead, I am thankful we got the chance to say goodbye to her, as not all families are so fortunate to have that opportunity. I try my best to emulate her caring nature, empathetic qualities, and devotion to both family and friends. Throughout the grief and sadness, I try to remain upbeat and positive like she was, and follow her example in doing good deeds for others. This has helped me mentally. I would be lying if I said it hasn't made me more cynical in my outlook, wondering how such a loving, kind woman like her, who would give the shirt off her back, could be struck down by cancer so cruelly before her time, while cruel, selfish people who hurt others live full lives and linger on seemingly without any hindrance. This has been hard to reconcile for me, but I believe it is better to live in a world of kindness for 5 minutes than a whole life in bitterness and indifference. Whenever I'm struggling or feeling low, thinking of her and what she would say if she could see me in that moment immediately lifts me up and gives me the strength to carry on and help uplift others if they are struggling too. This is probably her biggest gift to me. No matter how bad things get, I'm strong enough to weather the storm and pick up the pieces afterward with care and a kind word. Story 42. She ended the relationship about a month ago. We were perfect together, but she believed that we were too similar and, in the long run, there was no room for growth. Story 43. I did not lose her. I chose to stay out of her life because I knew I was not good enough for her or any woman. 20 years later, she has an amazing husband and a life she would never have had with me. Story 44. I was meant to move back to her country with her, but I was offered an amazing job that was well paid and had a brilliant future. I always said I would never let my heart direct a business decision, so she went home without me. To this day, 30 years later, I am never quite sure it was the right decision, despite the job becoming my big break and setting me up for life. Story 45. My own brain and overthinking pushed her away. I needed constant reassurance, and it killed the attraction. Story 46. She was killed by a drunk driver. Edit. Oops, I misread that initially. Not sure how that happened. But I guess the lesson is, do not drink and drive. Story 47. No idea, I was blindsided. I felt fine one day, and as soon as the honeymoon phase ended, the first crack showed. She did something that upset me. She sent me a long text message about how we want different things and she doesn't see us working out long term. When I asked her for clarity, she ghosted me. So who knows? Story 48. I was too focused on work to build a better future for us instead of focusing on the present. After reflecting on how things turned out for me outside of my love life, I will never regret it. Things could have been different, but we are here now. Story 49. We split early, reconnected later, and I ruined it. I am still immature. I have no clue where she is now, but I think about her daily. Story 50. You cannot lose something you never had. I do not think there was anyone who loved me genuinely. I am at the point where I have accepted that love is not for me. Story 51. Her father was diagnosed with cancer, which caused her to experience significant depression. We were in a long-distance relationship, so it was difficult to maintain. Story 52. We came from different backgrounds. Her parents were abusive, while mine were supportive until my mother's mental illness. She was very hard on herself, and I am a happy-go-lucky kind of person. She could not accept my lifestyle and left me for someone else. I can honestly say she cared deeply for me and wanted what was best for me, but we never saw eye to eye. I am glad she left me because now I am with a woman who is very much like me, and it is wonderful. Story 53. Started dating a really great woman right after a very traumatic breakup from my ex-fiancé. I had no business starting to date again, but I did it anyway. I foolishly used this great woman as a crutch to escape my healing process. It backfired and I really hurt her. I feel terrible for it. Therapy has helped a lot and I eventually got over the trauma, but not before I emotionally crushed this poor woman because of my rage and anger toward my ex. Story 54. Started hanging out with another girl after work for a few days. Then my ex noticed, got suspicious, and looked through my phone. She saw I had been texting her and lying about why I was getting back home late. 3.5 years later, I feel like I lost everything. I am nowhere near the person I used to be. I really messed up my life with this decision, and I strongly believe that the suffering I have endured since is earned and deserved. Even though, strangely, the situation is much more nuanced than that, I could even say I caught her cheating at least a year or two before we actually split, maybe even 3 or 4 years before that. It was messy and complicated, but it was real, and I cannot believe I actually lived it. It was a literal dream come true, felt almost ideal for a time, and then I just went and screwed it all up. It is hard not to stumble everywhere I walk nowadays, and I just want to be high or drunk, or preferably both, every single day. But obviously the body cannot take that, even though I definitely tried. Do not do as I did. Story 55. I had to marry someone else because of family pressure. My parents never acknowledged my say in my own life and decisions. I was devastated, but she was more. Story 56. The only woman in my life like this is my mother, and I have not lost her yet. Although she is getting old, sooner or later I will have to face the music. Story 57. She cheated on me with a man 10 years younger and then decided to move him into her place. She was taking a lot of Valium at the time and has become a generally unpleasant person. Story 58. When I was 17, I was in a relationship with a woman, 25 years old, whom I met online. She lived in the United Kingdom. This began around February of 2020. Everything seemed perfect, like it often does when you are a teenager. She even had a 2-year-old daughter that I was fully ready to raise. I was all in, totally in love. Everyone around me, my mother, my grandmother, my sister, and my best friend, all tried to tell me this was a horrible idea. Well, they were right. Then later, on my 18th birthday in August, I saw a post she made on Facebook with a heart background in white text. It said, "Found out what we're having." My stomach dropped. Somehow I just knew. It turned out she had been pregnant almost the entire time. She was a bigger woman, so it was hard to tell over video calls. She was carrying on a full relationship behind the scenes, a fiancé, cooking meals, going out on dates frequently. I only learned this after calling her sister in a panic during my lunch break. I thought I knew that she had separated from her daughter's father a while back before meeting me, but that could not have been further from the truth. They were very close. So why cheat on him with a teenager in the United States? I have no clue, but I spiraled for weeks, rarely leaving my room. I was fired from my job, stopped eating, stopped spending time with my family, and suffered from severe depression. But who did I lose? That woman in the United Kingdom never really loved or cared about me, so who am I talking about? While I wallowed in self-pity and tried in vain to salvage the relationship I thought I had, my mother was facing problems of her own. She had a definite drinking problem in the years prior, but our family thought she was getting better, and at times she was. However, she had also been dating around that time, and her self-esteem was very low. Guy after guy betrayed her trust. The drinking got worse, but she became better at hiding it. Eventually, it became a struggle to get her off the couch and active. She started getting bed sores. Not long after, she developed an infection, and the antibiotics prescribed by the doctor gave her Clostridioides difficile infection. It was setback after setback, and her spirit broke. One night, I noticed the whites of her eyes were completely yellow, and her skin color was off. She had jaundice. She was stubborn about going to the hospital, but a few days later, my sister came home from her place a couple of states away and helped me get Mom into the car, despite her resistance. To make matters worse, this was during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and hospitals were restricting visitors to only a few people at a time. Since my sister is a nurse, she went to take notes on the situation while my grandmother and I stayed home, trying not to think about what could happen. We fell asleep on the couch downstairs. When I woke up, my phone was ringing. It was my sister with the bad news. Mom was not going to be around much longer. When my sister returned, we all piled into the car, taking what we thought we would need to stay overnight. When we arrived, we had to wait in the parking garage for other visitors to leave due to COVID restrictions. By the time we could go in to see her, she was gone. No chance for goodbye, no "I love you." Nothing. Men, especially young men, if you are still reading this, take this advice. Listen to your family and pay attention to them when they are going through a rough time. In my story, I failed, and it is sad to read. But it was not just a story when I had to live it. It was hell. Do not let the prospect of a relationship control your life, especially if it gets in the way of your relationship with your family. That woman I fell in love with on a completely different continent. I bet all my future happiness on her, while the people at home were just trying to help me make it for myself. Story 59. I got jealous over everything and everyone. I was young, naive, and pathetic. I lost her after snooping on her computer behind her back to fuel my own fears. We are great friends now, respectfully married and very happy. I have never felt jealousy since in any of my relationships, since I learned the hard way how toxic it can be. I will never forgive myself for making her suffer through this. She was the one, but I was not. Story 60. I didn't. That doesn't mean that I haven't broken up with people who loved me. But loving someone and being in love with someone are not the same thing. I'm still in decent contact with a girl I dated in 1997. We had been together for almost a year, but she had an ex come back into her life under circumstances beyond their control, and we split up. It was difficult, but the heart is what it is. They got married, had a couple of children, and got divorced. We didn't have any animosity towards each other. I wanted her to be as happy and fulfilled as she could be and realized that wasn't going to be with me. She realized that she made mistakes, just as I realized that I needed to move on and kept the relationship strictly platonic. If she needed me to be there to help her, I would be there, but she is independent, so we just talk about books, politics, and sports. To date, there are only two people I have any animosity towards, and that is because they were not honest with me or disrupted a stable situation for foolish reasons. Story 61. I didn't. Once I realized who she was, I did what I had to do to be who she needed me to be. I just hit year 5. My daughter will be 2 in September, and I got married 2 weeks ago. Story 62. I cheated because I valued the few minutes of sexual gratification and the chase more than I valued long-term happiness. Also, I was not able to tell the various women I slept with over the years that our casual encounters were over and would never be more than what they were. When they inevitably called or sent a text, I did not say no because I did not want to hurt their feelings. Ultimately, I found the woman who genuinely cared for me. I was not the person I needed to be to either accept that I had a really good thing and leave that other life in the past, or let her go until I was ready and risked her having moved on. Story 63. She got tired and married another man, then strung me along with false hope and broken promises for 6 years. I will never stop loving her, but I will be alone for the rest of my life. Story 64. In the depths of my darkest days, I cheated. I ruined my marriage and caused irreparable damage. I went to therapy, worked on myself, and have since become a much better man and father. However, she does not want to go to therapy or couples counseling. We have now been divorced for a year and will probably never reconcile. Story 65. After 8 years, we broke up because she could not reciprocate the love I gave her. Her mental health was in decline, and she was abusing her prescribed medication. Story 66. 2 words. Sexual coercion. She is the type that feels sex is a need. I understand to a point. It is a healthy part of a relationship. However, when I said no, it always spiraled into an argument about how I did not love her and how she did not feel attractive. That led me to believe she needed it for validation, which I felt was not my responsibility, nor anyone else's, and was more a reflection of how she felt about herself. She broke up with me over it. Then she tried and failed to commit suicide. I just found out about that last part today. Story 67. I was in a bad place mentally. I had been on mind-numbing medications all through high school, got off of them in 2009, regained my body, mind, ambition, and personality, and spent the next 7 years trying and failing to be stable without medications. I would fall into an episode after 2 or 3 years, go back on them for a while, taper, and fall back into an episode. I theorized to my therapist that my mental health issues are trauma-based, and she agrees it's a solid theory. However, it wasn't until 2 years ago that I processed all the traumas. I have been off antipsychotics for over a year with perfect stability. Before that, I needed medications to compensate. In 2016, I met a beautiful soul at the local college. We immediately fell in love. I still remember the first moment she looked into my eyes and the moment she fell for me. She was 3 to 4 months pregnant. I always wanted children of my own, but the mental health challenges and the stress of her daughter's birth tore me in half mentally. I was so sleep-deprived, manic, and out of my mind half the time that I blacked out 85% of my time with them, which breaks my heart. We broke up after a year and a half around 2018, when we were long distance while I was at a mental health program a couple of states away. There were nasty arguments at the end, but even through the fights, she fought to keep us together. Out of the 6 serious relationships I have had, she is the only one who actually fought to keep us together. Every other woman I have loved just left. My most recent relationship was for 3 years. This woman would look into my eyes, deep into the depths of my soul, and understand every bit of me. Something only 3 or 4 people in my entire life have been able to do. We could banter and talk about absolutely anything and get lost in each other's minds for hours. The way she looked at me was with an electricity, enthusiasm, and love that was 3 or 4 times more passionate, loving, and happy than I had ever seen. Just yesterday, A friend of mine said she talked about me as if I were a god because of how much she loved me. Despite being the one who broke us up, I was bitter for a year and a half afterward. I eventually got over the bitterness in 2019, reached out, and we had a beautiful friendship for 6 years. I told her not long after that she was the one who taught me how truly incredible and reciprocal a relationship could be. She was so caring, so sweet. She paid so much attention to every little piece of my body language. Everything I said, she would respond to, every message or text I sent, every comment on social media. I thought I was the only one who did all of that for my partners. She was so attentive to everything I did and said it was as though she was reading my mind. That is something I strive to do for everyone around me. It was incredible to have a partner do the same for me. She truly set the gold standard. Unfortunately, that was until I discovered she had been burying resentment and blew up at me about 2 months ago. I had not seen her that angry since our breakup in 2018. We have not spoken since. Not only that, but she had terrible experiences after she moved. She lost a lot of her light and became a bitter and jaded person, a fraction of who she was when we first fell in love. The good news is, I have since seen a woman twice at a local store with whom I have great chemistry. She somehow looks at me with 3 to 4 times the electricity, depth, and enthusiasm she ever did, which is 3 to 4 times as much as anyone ever did before. The next time I see her, I am making sure we exchange information. So hey, it can happen again. Story 68. 2 years ago, I got a woman pregnant. We tried to make it work, failed, and managed to come up with a decent co-parenting arrangement. I thought that was it. Then I met an amazing, caring woman who helped me get through some rough times with deployments and a sick mother. While on my last deployment, the baby's mother, either due to questionable reasons or coincidence, decided she wanted us to be a family again, and that not only did she want this, but so did our child. So, long story short, I chose the baby's mother over the perfect woman and spent 6 months as a family before the baby's mother decided to leave. Through a combination of parental alienation and self-inflicted wounds on my part, I lost contact with my child. I do regret losing the perfect woman, well, I do, but not nearly as much as I regret not doing more to combat the parental alienation and playing right into it. Story 69. My daughter is still around and loves me dearly, so I did not lose her. My mother is a great, wonderful woman, but she has about 60 people in her very large immediate family. She splits her energy among them, so I do not think that compares to my daughter. In terms of relationships, there has not been a woman who genuinely cares for me. Maybe in emotional moments, but I would not call that genuine. Story 70. She thought an online male friend was more interesting. When I asked her why he did not know about us being a couple, it started a week-long set of discussions in which I was gaslit, invalidated, and manipulated. Eventually, she broke up with me and went to that other guy 2 days later. Story 71. She died when I was 15. I miss you, Mum. But you are talking about romantic love. Thankfully, that has never really happened to me. I have rejected women who told me they were very much into me because I was not into them. However, I do not think you can call that love, just strong attraction. I genuinely believe only one woman has loved me in my life, and I am still with her. Story 72. God, there have been about 3 over the past decade or so. Sadly, I was looking elsewhere except for the most recent one. She left because my mental health was in the gutter, and she could not be around it. Story 73. By not being in a stable enough position to go for it. We connected again earlier this year. She is married, and so am I. The old feelings came back, and there was nothing we could do. It was painful. Story 74. I went for her sister who did not feel the same way about me and messed up all of my relationships at the time. This was 13 years ago. I miss them all. Story 75. She had a very serious accident. She was walking the dog in more ways than one and tripped and fell on a man's private area. Story 76. In her own words, I thought you would change. Apparently, our relationship needed saving for at least 3 years before it ended. Who knew? Story 77. She was married to my best friend, and he never quite accepted the idea of having multiple romantic partners. What are you going to do? Story 78. I did not show any interest in getting married. We were both divorced from previous marriages. I was happy to see each other on weekends. She wanted more for some reason. Story 79. Well, for one, don't let her ever talk to your ex because your ex will tell them lies, which is not true. Before she even lets you say your piece, she'll leave you and move on to the next guy. Even if both of you were great for each other. Yes, there were some things I didn't tell her, like that I had been in therapy, but I was faithful. I didn't cheat on her and was truthful to her, other than not wanting to invite her over during therapy. I can be messy at times, but I always answered her calls. She bought me things I didn't ask for, and I still own a few. She sent lunch to me at work, etc. She wanted to know more about me, so she looked up a post on my social media from a few years back and messaged my ex, saying I had a child. What my ex failed to tell her was that our child was deceased and that we were separated. So yeah, my ex let a good woman go. But everyone's story will be different here. Story 80. I wouldn't know if I have too focused on improving myself, so I am too busy to notice, to be honest. Probably a fair amount of men for whom this is true, whether they know it or not. That being said, if the lady never said something directly, that is on them because that lack of communication is a hard pass from me anyway. Story 81. I cannot say I ever have. If she genuinely cared for me, we would have stayed together. I have never met a woman who was not more attached to something else than me, money, status, ego, or staying in their sickness. If I meet a woman who genuinely cares for me, I will be all in, whatever she wants. Story 82. There are women, ladies, and wives. I have only met one wife. She was very interested in me. I was not in a position to accept it and honestly should have been dating. There was no cheating involved. Thankfully, she found the person she was meant to be with. I believe we were lessons for one another. Wives are extremely rare. Only about 5 or 6% of females are wives. About 10% are ladies and the rest are women. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.